Yeah.
All right, yeah, we're rolling. Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the Uncork Corner podcast. My name's Nick. With me, as always, my co-host Bianca. Today, we're joined by Brandon and Worth from Brickyard Hollow up in Maine. Nice to meet you guys and have you on the show here. I know we're diving in talking about beer and pizza day coming up on October 9th. That's going to be the main theme of the episode. So we're excited to dig in, drink some beer, eat some pizza, and see what we can get coming out of it. So if you just want to start off, have you both introduce yourselves and kind of give us a little bit of your backgrounds?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Worth Hamilton. I'm head brewer over here for Brickyard. My background is in brewing in the last 7 years, worked for about 6 different facilities around Portland, doing everything from beer to wine to seltzers, and joined up with Brickyard about a year and a half ago and helped them build out this new production facility. And from here, we're supplying all 10 of our locations with beer. And it's also the flagship restaurant for the rest of the locations to kind of model after. So we get to see all the action and try to kind of drive the quality from here. Yeah. And Brandon?
Sweet. Yeah. Brandon Pierce. I'm the brewery production manager up here at Brickyard Hollow. So I work hand in hand with Worth. We're kind of the two heads of the snake. We try and figure out stuff on the beer side. I got started with Brickyard Hollow 4 years ago, starting as like a front of house, like pizza counter, beer pour position, and then it's been a steady progression upwards from there. So my background is in wine, coffee, beer, and IT. So I don't know. I've got all the all the numbers, and he's got all the beer knowledge.
The liquid and circuits guy.
Yeah. So we between the two of us, we make it work. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more just about the background of Brickyard Hollow. I remember I first got exposed to you guys when I was living up in Maine with my wife, and we actually came across you just in the Freeport food court across Mellow Bean. That's where we had our first slice of Brickyard Hollow pizza and kind of fell in love with it. It was some of the best pizza that we had up in the area, and always some different, combos and unique flavors that you have going on. So take us from kind of just a little bit about the starter Brickyard Hollow and how you kind of grew the way that you did.
Yeah, so I Brickyard Hollow as a company started in late 2017, early 2018. We started our CEO now is the same CEO as from before, but he just wanted to start a brewery in his hometown of Yarmouth. And when he went to the town originally, it's kind of a funny story. We were talking about this earlier, but it's a funny story. Like when he went to the town, they were like, yeah, you can start a brewery, but you have to have like a full-fledged food menu. We're not going to let you start with a brewery and then popcorn or like pretzels in the bag or any of that stuff. Like you have to have like a full thing. So at the time, it seemed like a little bit of a roadblock, being like, okay, well, we can't just have a brewery. We got to have like a full-fledged like food menu. And he was like, all right, well, we'll just do the whole hog. We'll do the whole thing because I just want to start a brewery in my hometown and just start something that like people in Yarmouth can come to and congregate to and have that that third space. So I mean, since then, they opened Freeport in 2019, maybe early 2020, like right before COVID. And with that, they had poached our now VP of operations, Brendan Medeiros, from a local pizza place in town. And with him, he had brought all of that pizza knowledge, all of that pizza know-how, and how to run a successful business on the food side. And since then, it's just been gangbusters for us. So
yeah, and then opening Portland, I think a year after that was the big thing. That's our most popular location per capita, or for sales. So that really took the company from being a starting thing to full-fledged. They could see that the model was working. So from there, they just kept opening up more, building them around the same kind of framework. And now we're at 10. Looking to move out of the state eventually, but got to start here.
Yeah, so when I started in August or maybe September of 2020, there were 2 locations. There was Yarmouth and there was Freeport. And then by that summer, we had opened Freeport. We were looking to open Algonquin. And then, now in 2024, we have 8 other locations from those first 2. And it's just been, I mean, it's been a wild ride, but I've been with it. I feel pretty blessed that I've been with it for as long as I have, and I've seen that progression, and I've seen that growth, and I'm looking to ride that growth for as long as it'll go. So.
And not to go too far into detail, but one of the big differences between where I've worked before for other breweries and for Brickyard is that food is historically not been for the craft beer that focus. And with Brickyard, I came in, and this is definitely a company that prioritizes its food first. And that came out of kind of a necessity during COVID as well. Beer sales were dropping all across the country with everything shutting down. And then when I spoke with Brad, our owner and CEO about it, he said that it was a no-brainer to expand upon the food program. So instead of investing back then in a large brewing facility, they continued to build out. They were getting creative with contract brews and things to keep the beer flowing, but invested in the food first. And now our job here in this new facility is to get the beer up to the par that the food has set. So we like to think that we've gotten it there. But but in terms of their priorities, they definitely know their way around food. We're much more of a restaurant brewery than most in the area, which has done really well for us.
Yeah, that was something Nick and I were talking about, and I know we talked about a little bit when we were visiting. Is we've interviewed a lot of breweries, we've visited a lot of breweries. Nick and I both love beer. I think it is hard to find a brewery though that has a great food footprint. I think that that's definitely something that makes you an exception. In fact, I think Nick, like to Nick's point, he didn't necessarily come just for beer. It was, we're hungry, we're gonna go get some food, and the food's great, and then the beer ends up being great too, right? So that brings you back for one or the other. So you get the best of both worlds, but it really is hard to find a spot that has both. And I think a lot of the time you see food trucks, you see small snacky type things, but the pizza was phenomenal. We had a couple different kinds, and we'll dig in a little bit to that as well. But I think it's really special when you can find a place that has the best of both worlds in that way, because you can, bring a family, you can bring kids, you can bring your friends, and everybody has something. And even if you're not drinking beer, you're enjoying the other things that you have on the menu. And I know you had a full bar as well, which was pretty cool. So
Yeah.
it makes it different.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, that's a lot of security in the current, and I'm sure you guys have heard this talking with other breweries, but there's a lot of saturation in the market for us right now. And you can't just make beer. You need to, the days of millennials going into a tap room and buying beer without food is over. Everyone's having kids. The majority of our demographics that we're looking to sell to are looking for food as an option, even more so than the beer. So you're spot on with that.
And we saw that obviously with you guys out in New Gloucester with the disc golf course. There's different things that the family can come enjoy. I know when we were there was families around, people just coming in, having the pizza, having the lunch, but also being able to have a great beer with it is nice. So let's talk a little bit more about that and focus on the beer now. Worth, I know you came in and you kind of, with more of that brewery background, just said, hey, let's make this beer great. And Brandon, I know that was your focus too. You wanted to work at a brewery that makes real good beer, and you're proud of that. So what kind of beers do you guys typically lean towards making? What do you really focus on? What's kind of the staple lineup for you?
So being in New England, we're always going to have the New England IPAs be our top seller. At least that's been historically a thing for the last 10 years. So we make a lot of those. Personally, as a brewer, I lean more towards clean, light ales and lagers specifically. I take a little bit more of a German approach to my brewing. But I'm still stuck in a New England mindset. It's hard for me to make a West Coast IPA because I'm so used to making things hazy. But our kind of philosophy here is things that go well with food we don't really tend to play with a lot of crazy flavors and adjuncts. I like beer flavored beer, if that makes sense. We do have a lot of success with our fruit beers. So those have been a fun switch up in the mix. A sour that's done really well for us, a blueberry ale, a mango wheat peach ale. But other than that, we try to stay with the classics, especially because of our food program. We want things that, are approachable, consistent, and not going to be overpowering the food. So we're not making a, Oreo slushy milkshake sour IPA. That's not really our style. And we'll leave it to the IPAs houses to do that. But but we have a lot of customers that are kind of used to we're a family place, so we want to make sure we offer a little bit of everything. We have about 12 different beers offered at most of our locations, which tends to be one of the harder parts of our job, is just making sure we have enough beer to keep all those taps filled. But with that comes mostly classic styles, your red ales, pilsners, obviously the New England IPAs being our specialty up here. Then a couple fruit beers, and just cover all the bases, couple dark beers seasonally. But yeah, clean and light is what I like. Dry beer, not too hoppy, not too malty.
Yeah, so I mean, when you guys were up here, I mean, I kind of mentioned that, like, if Worth had his say, like, every single beer would be a pilsner or some pilsner adjacent beer. Unfortunately, we don't have that liberty with what we're doing. So yeah, it's that unofficial Brickyard motto is like, we're for the masses, we're not for the classes. So we try to have a little bit of everything for everybody. So in some regards, it's a little unfortunate we can't just dial in on those hazy beers. We can't just dial in on those pilsners or lagers. We need to have like a good rounded portfolio of beers so that we can cater to everybody, because that's kind of the company ethos, motto, whatever, that we can just make just about everybody happy. And for the most part, I think that's what we do. But
well, yeah, it's really well reflected also in the food program, because the food program has got a little bit of, like you guys were saying, the pizza toppings, they go crazy with those. So I like to think like they're doing the crazy pizza stuff. So I'm not going to make a crazy beer, because like I want them to have their like kind of their fun with that. And they make really good combinations that always come out good, but a little bit of everything, but not specializing in one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on that a little bit, that must be difficult when it comes to you guys are making the beer, instead of having a restaurant that you can pull from Lone Pine, pull from Allagash, all these different places, and kind of take the best from each. You guys are making all these different styles in-house to cater to a full, tap list, right? So when it comes to doing that, what would you say is kind of the biggest challenge you run into when coming up with recipes for the beer, when trying out new things, and really, obviously you guys are probably more limited on space and time, what can we test out? How do we really bring these ideas to life?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard him, but he said yeast. That's the biggest struggle, and hands down, that is absolutely the biggest struggle. I mean, we've got house ale yeast. I'm doing finger quotes here. We've got a house ale yeast. We've got a house hazy yeast. We've got a house like lager pilsner yeast. We've got a house like Kolsch yeast. Like we can't really like lean too far into one specific yeast. And for me anyway, like scheduling out production, scheduling out what we're going to brew and when we're going to brew it, there's a lot of give and take. Okay, we can get 3 or 4 gens out of this yeast, or we can get 3 or 4 gens out of this yeast. Maybe we'll only get 2 gens out of this yeast, but it's kind of dictated on how much the restaurants are actually pouring all those beers that they're pouring. What is actually selling? What do we actually need to brew right now? That's kind of the biggest struggle for us on the beer side.
Yeah, and like to put a little context to that for listeners, a lot of breweries choose one yeast and they stick with it, and they're able to go 10 to 12 generations of that one yeast. It's an expensive part of the process. Lab-grown yeast is just expensive to make and buy. So for instance, when I worked at Maine Beer Company, we used one yeast strain for every beer. And that means you can always have a tank ready to go with the next batch, and it's going to be what you're looking for. And they build their entire portfolio around that. But for us, we are trying to create so many styles. We're trying to be Allagash and Maine Beer Company and a haze house and maybe a sour production place as well. So that mostly it cuts into cost in terms of ingredient, but then also time and tank space. So it's a lot easier to have a machine running on one engine than it is to have 4 engines you got to swap all the time. That's how I could put it.
Yeah, I mean, to that end, like that.
But that's part of what we like doing.
Exactly.
We like making different types of.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like that's what keeps it interesting. Like we're not always brewing New England IPAs. We're not always brewing lagers. We're not always brewing just standard ales. Like every single week, it seems like it's a different challenge because we're brewing completely different beers, and if we can chain them together, all the better. But at the same time, we're not brewing the same thing all the time, always. And that keeps everybody here on the production side anyway, like kind of interested in it, because it's constantly changing. We've constantly got to be,
Yeah, it gets really boring making the same beer every day. Yeah.
Have you ever had something that just really surprised you that you put in the tank and you're like, oh, we don't know how this is going to come out, but you're like, that was actually probably one of the best beers I've ever had?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. We have one particular recipe which I've been working on since the prior brewery I was at, Four River, which closed down in South Portland about a year and a half ago before I was here. But we call that beer a culmination of happy accidents. The two owners of that company were both home brewers and kept trying to make different types of sours. And they stumbled upon this particular way of making a crazy little sour, and it just came out well. One funny story they always told, and it's still part of the recipe now that we've inherited from them, is it's a raspberry sour, and one of the owners was there late at night and accidentally put a box of tart red cherry in with all of the sour, or with all the raspberry puree, and that batch just absolutely blew the other ones out of the water. So now it's part of the recipe to add one tart cherry for every 7 raspberry boxes. And you just, with brewing, you really don't know. It's such a living organic product that you can think something's going to be totally awful and come out with the most beautiful thing. The trick is recreating that. So we try to take a lot of notes and try to keep records just in case we stumble upon something fun, or if we stumble upon something really bad, we can avoid that. Which only happens occasionally.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to make those ones again.
No, right.
So we did talk about how, you do have a lot of fruity options for the pizza as well. And that was something in person that we were looking at the menu and we were all kind of sitting at the table trying to figure out like what pizzas we were interested in trying. And I was surprised at the like differentiation in flavors that you had. I mean, you had so many different pizzas with really cool flavors, a lot of fruity flavors. And you also have some beers with some fruity undernotes, but you also have straight up fruity beers. So when it comes to the beer and the pizza, when people come in and they're ordering a beer, they're ordering a pizza, when you think of like a lot of people think of like wine and food tasting, right? Like pairings. How do you feel about pizza and beer and how they pair together? And do you ever get people that come in and ask like, hey, what should I order with this beer, or vice versa, like with this pizza?
Well, coming both of us from the wine background, one thing that is definitely notable is that like beer's a lot harder to pair than wine is. And there's, it's still kind of an emerging study, but when it comes to what we have to offer, the owner, I guess this kind of brings up a story I meant to tell, is that when we first started up the production facility over here, the owners came at us with similar ideas to what they envisioned. They're not, and for honesty's sake, they're not the most like beer-centered people. They're restaurant people. So they were asking us for crazy flavor combinations similar to what the pizza is. And I had to be honest with them and say that I just don't think that makes sense, given that you're already giving so much on that end. You can't hit everyone with the kitchen sink all the time. But that being said, something like a pizza, it holds up well to either a light lager, something that's clean and easy, because you already have some bold flavors coming from the pizza. One of the big SKUs that we pushed was the red ale early on. Yeah. It's kind of a lost style for like popularity's sake, but it's having a bit of a renaissance right now. But like a good whiskey, it pairs with darker, heavier meals and things like that. Like a burger and a red ale makes sense. A burger and an IPA even makes sense because the IPA's flavors match the boldness of the burger. But when you start throwing fruit into the mix, I would almost tell customers to shy away from the fruit beer if they're not planning on having something light in comparison. So but it's to each preference. It's not so much like wine where there's a wrong way to go about it, in my opinion. It's just what feels right. And a lot of times customers are looking less so for the pairing and more so just for the kind of beer they like. So if you cover all the options, then they can make that decision. And we don't really get that question much. We're also not on the front of house side anymore, so we don't see all that. But
yeah, and that's, I mean, he's kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like we leaned into the red ale and the Pilsner because they
play with everything. Yeah,
they pretty much play with everything. I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to them, but they're pretty base neutral beer. that will pair with pretty much all of the crazy flavors or the traditional flavors. You know, your cheese or your pepperoni pizza, that's going to play just as well with the red ale or the pilsner as, you know, the blueberry ricotta or the peaches and goat cheese or any of the other crazy pizza flavors that we have. And that's, I mean, that's has shown itself in the sales over the last year and a half now. Like,
And we didn't expect the red ale to do as well as it did.
no, no, I mean, we really didn't. I mean, he kind of brought that recipe with him from Fort River. He's tweaked it a little bit. It's kind of his own recipe at this point, but that was one of the things that Brickyard as a company was lacking before Worth came on board, was a solid red ale, you know, something a little sweet, something a little malty, but overall fairly neutral, fairly drinkable on its own. Or, you know, if you can combine that with, you know, a Swiss and mushroom burger to a barbecue pork chicken burger, or, you know, any of these other pieces that we have, like that was kind of something that we were missing outside of the lagers. So, you know, I want to thank Worth for bringing that with him and kind of developing that here at Brickyard, because, you know, we've been kind of missing something like that.
It wasn't a thing 5 years ago. It's all about the IPAs, but that's starting to go away now.
Yeah.
Which is both good and bad.
It is nice to have the variety out there in the menu, though, for when you want to change it up. And as you guys were saying, a lot of the beers that you make too are generally more, you know, clean and approachable, and nothing that's gonna, no matter what pizza or what beer you want to get, you can probably get away with drinking them and eating them together. When it comes to more unique pizza flavors, though, I will say I was blown away by that blueberry ricotta pizza when we were in there the other day. We tried that one, and then we tried another one that was hot honey, capicola, and pineapple. Both were excellent. I know my wife really, really loved the hot honey one. But for me, the blueberry pizza is something I never would have like ordered or thought to put together in a million years. But out of the two, that might have been my favorite. I was shocked with how much I really liked that one. So for pizza flavors and kind of off the wall combinations, even, what's the favorite pizza or favorite combo you guys have each had in your time at Brickyard Hollow?
I just can't believe you guys put pineapple on a pizza. I'm just sitting here like, you know, there's so much controversy over pineapple on the pizza, and I'm just had to throw that in there. What, I need your thoughts before we move forward.
Where'd you say you lie on it? You like or don't like?
I usually don't, but I actually loved that pizza. But I would never have
cool.
ordered like a Hawaiian pizza on my own. But that was really good. So for the listeners, because I'm sure they're quite divided, you have to give us your thoughts on the pineapple on the pizza real quick before we answer the question.
I like it. I think there's nothing wrong with it. Brandon's gonna say he doesn't.
I am largely indifferent.
That's just a politician.
Relax. It depends on what else is going on. I think for Brickyard, like that hot honey kind of like elevates it a little bit. So I will say that I will like ours a little bit more than, you know, your average, you know, house of pizza in your hometown. If they don't have the hot honey, it's just pineapple and ham or whatever. I've never been a big Hawaiian pizza, you know, type of guy, but I will eat ours, and I will stomach it, and I'll hold my nose, and I'll be okay with it. But
I agree. A little bit of heat goes a long way. It's funny. It's actually Domino's makes their Hawaiian pizza with jalapeno as well.
You can't say Domino's.
I just did it.
You can't say that.
I'm not allowed to. I did it.
Can't promote the competition. Come on.
You can't say that.
but really, they like it. I agree that the heat has something to do with it, because that actually does it for me. But without that, I don't know.
If that was the pizza, I would eat it. You know, pineapple and whatever, I would eat it. If there was any other pizza, I'd probably take any other pizza. So I guess you would put me in the anti-pineapple category.
But it's funny that that's like the question we're asking when we have like so many fruits on pizza that I've never even seen before with this company, like peach or like blueberry on it. So it's like, yeah, the pineapple's a debate, but I don't even think people know about the other ones.
That's kind of the thing. I mean, you guys asked me what my favorite pizza was, and the peaches, balsamic, goat cheese, and basil, that is hands down my favorite pizza. And like peaches on pizza, like that doesn't make sense. You know, I worked in Freeport as like a front counter person for like a year and a half, and every single person, almost to a T, who came in it's like, hey, what's your favorite pizza? And I was like, oh, it's the peaches balsamic. Like it's fantastic. And they're like, peaches on pizza? That is no, I don't believe you. I don't believe
they're paying you to say that. Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I'll give you
You
give
okay,
you a slice
bud? You
for
need some
free.
help?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
You need help. Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a slice for free. If you hate it, sure, fine. Grab your pepperoni, grab your whatever. If you do love it, you have to buy a full size. And 9 times out of 10, everybody was like, yeah, no, this actually it works. It works. No, this is great. This is a great pizza.
So that's like going back to what we were saying with the testament of like, and he couldn't be with us here today, but Brendan, who runs the food program, our COO, he's got a real touch for this stuff. He's been working with pizza for so long. He's not as good with the beer stuff, I'll say that, but but he knows his way around pizza. I'm sorry, it's confusing because it's Brandon and then Brendan is like the boss. So I'm not talking about him when I say that.
So I'm Brandon. My boss's name is Brendan. But I mean, he was mentioning he's not good with the beer side. Brendan is like 10 or 12 years like stone cold sober at this point. Like I don't think he has ever tasted a single Brickyard beer, but he keeps the company running, he keeps it moving, and he basically trusts me and Worth to just kind of figure out. And if we tell him the beer is good, he takes us at face value, and he's like, all right, keep doing what you're doing.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, both pretty good in both ways though, because like he doesn't have a lot of opinions on it because he can't taste it. He gives us all the resources we need to produce it, and he trusts us to do it. But the other edge of that sword is that the kind of the quality and the sensory perception of it stops and ends at Brandon and I. So we're hoping to get more of the company involved in tasting things. It's hard when you have 350 employees to get them all involved in it, but yeah. So we do what we can. But
yeah, I mean, I was talking with you folks, earlier, and yeah, we've got 350 employees, but only 3 of them are full-time interested in working with the beer day in, day out. The rest of them are, like line cooks, bartenders, servers, like all this stuff. Like it kind of pains me to say it, but Brickyard Hollow Brewing Company is first and foremost a restaurant company, and then there's a handful of us who make the beer go rounds, but I think we do a good job of it, and we still have our jobs,
but
a year and a half later, so we're doing something right, I guess.
That is what we're saying, is that the next few years, we hope to expand that a bit to include more of the people in the company, because now that we have the facility going, it'd be nice to get a little more feedback, a little more like actual sensory analysis on the product, because everyone tastes things differently. So the 3 of us only have so many brain cells to go around here.
Absolutely. And you guys have done a great job. Absolutely. Right now I'm drinking the Trestle IPA. That's the one that I've been drinking tonight. But when we were there the other day, we were able to try the Fest beer. We tried Doppelbock, the raspberry sour. Let's see. Yeah, we tried a bunch. Bianca, any other ones that you can name? I know we tried the Pilsner too, which was, as you call it, the Golden Retriever beer.
I
think that was that one.
It's on the label, yeah.
Yep.
People like that label. Nothing wrong with the dog on a label.
But yeah, everything was great. I mean, sometimes you get a flight, and every now and again there's something like, yeah, I could kind of go without this, but I really enjoyed every one of them. I drank all the samples. It was a great time. But with that said, having this separate, and with having separate, the food people are the food people. The pizza was all fantastic too. If you had, your hands in both spaces, you're trying to make the beer and the pizza, I could see how that, probably going to cut corners somewhere. So having the separate focus seems to be working for you.
I mean, it does. I mean, like Worth is like the mad scientist on this side of this on the wall, and I kind of keep things running. But on the other side of the wall, there's an equal mad scientist. There's an equal like numbers person on that side of the wall, and they're focused on restaurant operations and recipe development and make sure the pizzas are where they should be. So I feel like this podcast, this interview is getting a little bit too much maybe biased from the pizza side or from the
brewery side, yeah.
Yeah, from the brewery side, but there is an equal amount of effort and volume and passion on the pizza side that, I want to give shout outs to, Brendan Medeiros, our VP of operations, and then Jameson Thibodeau, who is our recipe development cook. He wanted to be on this podcast. He was going to a concert tonight. I reached out to a couple of head cooks.
Yeah, so I just Nick didn't want to make it.
Well, I was trying Nicholas Jakes, who is the the kitchen manager here in New Gloucester where we brew. He wanted to be on this podcast. His kid is sick today, so he couldn't make it out today. But
Kids first, then pizza.
I was trying to get somebody like super focused on the culinary side, but
you've been here long enough. Man.
Kitchen side is it's way different from the brewery side. I mean, we're like 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, but they're whenever they're needed. Kitchen hours are way different, and I am so glad that I'm not on that.
Yeah,
side
I'll say we thank our stars every day that we work on this side.
Yeah,
they have the harder guys for sure.
I don't know, Brandon, you burn in the midnight hours, and Saturday you had to come out for a couple hours and drink some beer and eat some pizza with us. That's hard work.
Oh, it was a total, that was just the worst Saturday I've ever had. I don't know. Hanging out with you guys and drinking beers and talking pizza and doing all that stuff. Yeah, no, that I've definitely had worse Saturdays, worse working Saturdays as well. So no, I texted Worth. He was at a beer festival that day.
Hey, he made me actually work that day. So
I did. Little did I know that he probably would have had a better tour for you guys, and I might have had a better time at the beer festival. But I don't know. We're here now. We're here now. So.
Well, we actually heard that Worth, you're a subject matter expert, and you might be releasing a pickled pizza soon.
Oh boy, here we go. Yeah. I'm not been pickles. Pickles are my world. Aside from beer, obviously all fermented things I tend to love. But yeah, pickled pizza. We'll have to see. I don't trust my hand at that, but there's no saying it couldn't be done. I'm sure Brennan would like that idea.
Well, I mean, we could go pickle beer. I've seen it done.
Oh gosh, yeah. Now you're really getting under my skin. No, but it's exactly like I always think that something salty goes well with a beer. So whether it's in the beer or next to the beer, I love a pickle. But yeah, I mean, but it's funny that you were telling them about that.
I might have let it slip that you are trying to start your own pickle business.
Yeah, maybe in a couple of years, maybe I'll see you guys for that. Yeah.
Well, I torture Nick and my husband all the time. I'm like, you guys, I got lots of pickles. I'm always making pickles of some kind or another and making everybody try them. Yeah, they're all my guinea pigs. I'm just like, yeah, I just made a bunch of pickles. You get to try them.
I'll eat all the pickled jalapenos, whatever she gives them to me. Yep. That's my speed.
Yeah, that's like my other passion. But they go kind of hand in hand in terms of beer and pickles. Why not? Anything that goes into a vinegar-based solution or an acidity thing. I like anything like that.
Your other passion's not disc golf. Are you sure?
No, that's him. I'm a gamer. He's a discer. Yeah.
A discer and a musician.
He's got a good arm.
I am not that good at disc golf. I am passable at best. I have fun. The man is a scorer. No, he's a much better pickler than I am a disc golfer. So I'll take that. Yeah,
I know Bianca.
I figured he would take that. Yeah.
Bianca just threw out an idea for a pickled beer, but when it comes to, I guess, maybe limited releases or the next thing coming down the pipeline, what's the next beer that you guys are the most excited to release?
Oh, definitely our collaboration right now. I think we're making a Dunkel, which you guys probably know what that is. A dark German lager basing out of Munich in origin. A friend of mine who previously worked with me at Four River, he started Argento Brewing, which is important. He'd probably love to talk to you guys, by the way.
Shout out to Ryan.
Ryan Dunlap. He's making it happen. So he does all lager brewing. His aesthetic is kind of like a cowgirl theme. Very beautiful, kind of like minimalist aesthetic with all clean light lager and dark lager. But we're doing a Dunkel with him, and that'll be released in about a month. So we'll send some down to him. We brewed it up here a week or two ago. And he and I have brewed together for years. So that was one of the first collabs that Brickyard's done, I believe. And we're trying to get a little more of that going in the community to just, it's kind of a win-win, because as a brand, we like to extend out to some of the less family-oriented places, try to get some of the different clients that they have. But then for anyone that's looking to collaborate with us, we have 10 locations, and that label's going to go to 10 locations. So free marketing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, kind of build on that. You know, we're not we're happy to work with anybody and everybody. You know, we're not elitists in any sense of the words. You know, when he says we have 10 locations, every single time we go to a location, we want to be a part of that community. We want to, you know, embed ourselves in that community, and, you know, help that community, honestly, in some sense. So I he mentioned the Dunkel collab with Argenta Brewing and Ryan Dunlap. You know, we're very excited about that. I think even before that, I think next week we are packaging our ales for ALS beer. So that's something that we like to do as well. You know, on the pizza side, we have a you know,
the monthly pizza.
Yeah, the monthly pizza. You know, we try and change up the pizza. You know, once a month there's a special, and every single time we do that.
And we collaborate with another local restaurant. Basically, we take their ingredients that they regularly use, we co-brand it, and then a portion of those proceeds go to a fundraiser that kind of, you know, benefits a mutual interest of the two breweries.
Yeah, so I either it's a nonprofit or some other charitable organization. Our primary partner with this is Full Plates with Potential, and those guys, super cool. They're a charity that's trying to end food scarcity for children, specifically, you know, elementary age children. So every single month we've got a different pizza of the month, and I think it's like $1, like $1.50, $2 maybe, like some percentage of the proceeds of every pizza sold goes to Full Plates with Potential, just to, you know, kind of help that. And that's kind of the Brickyard way, is like we want to be part of the community, we want to elevate people, we wanted to, you know, we're not out there to make a quick buck, you know,
well, it's the long-term fun. Right, yeah. you gotta integrate before you actually feel like you can sustain somewhere, you know.
Sure, maybe it's a long-term buck if you're cynical, but, you know, short-term, like we don't want to be parasitic. We don't want to feel like we're a burden on any single town that we come to. We want to make sure that you know, the places that we come to, like, hey, we're a part of your community, and it might take a little bit for you guys to realize that, but we want to give back. We want to give back, and that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, we've done a couple of charity beers over the years. I mean, most recently we did a to the Time to Compete LLC. And that's a kind of interesting story. Like an employee of Brickyard, Paulo, his son,
he lost a battle with cancer.
Yeah,
about a year ago. Yeah,
yeah.
So we went kind of balls to the wall to fundraise for that. Yeah,
in so much phrasing. Yeah, we you know, we brewed a special beer for them, and the CEO was 100% on board. He bought everything at cost, and then 100% of the proceeds of all of those cases that we sold went straight to that charity. Again, Time to Compete LLC. It's you know, every dollar spent towards Time to Compete goes towards cancer funding and research and prevention and all that jazz. I'm not a marketing guy. I apologize.
Oh, you're spinning it good.
I know the broad strokes, and I know it's a good cause, and they're good people.
Well, yeah, you know, there's always something to be said about, like, we make beer, and that's fun, and people love it. But when you have an opportunity like that, it's good to go and put a little extra effort into it, even if it's, you know, at a loss. We like to think that we we think of family and our people first rather than the machine that we're driving.
Absolutely. And it's
And
nice that
that's-
you guys have the program to every month kind of change it up, do a new pizza, keep it fresh. And I'm sure the marketing people are going to be spinning the beer and pizza day coming up here soon. So for October, what's the actual pizza that people can expect to get in the locations when they go in person?
Yeah, so our October pizza of the month is going to be a plum, prosciutto, and hot pepper jelly.
There's the fruit and the hot pepper again.
There it
Hot
is.
pepper. Yeah, absolutely.
Plum, I didn't know what you were doing.
I've got like a full list going back a couple months here, but yeah, it's again like some amount of the proceeds. I think at the very least is like $1 for every pizza goes back to Full Plates with Potential, who is again, trying to end food scarcity for at-risk youth, or at the very least elementary youth, and giving back to the community. That's kind of the whole deal. And again, I'm not a marketing guy. I apologize for stuttering and all this stuff.
We're better at the beer side.
We're way better at the beer side.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you guys have heard of Pink Food Society before, probably. That's a fundraiser that works to help women entering the beer business get the resources they need, as well as kind of just raising awareness around. There's a really, just like a lot of industries, there's a lot of issues in terms of the gender dynamics of brewing. Historically was a women's craft, and then the men took it over the last 100 years. So this association basically helps to promote and uplift those that are looking to enter the industry from that side. And so we brew a beer every year with them, and it was fun because we got to have all the women that we work most closely with come and brew that day for us. So that they really brewed the beer. And all the proceeds, not all the proceeds, a portion of the proceeds of that also go to that foundation. So always keeping something in the books for
always keeping something. I mean, we're always very much so down to collaborate with anybody and anybody, whether it's for, well, not anybody, but most anybody. I don't know.
Right.
If they're doing something for ALS, they're doing something for the Pink Foods to help the like the female identifying people in our industry get a leg up. That's we're not going to sniff up at that. We're gonna take that seriously and be like, yeah, the only thing that's a roadblock is like, can we fit that in our schedule? And if we can, hell yeah, we're 100% for that. We want to be advocates for that. We want to be partners with that, and we want to keep moving forward with that.
Absolutely. Now, to brighten this up a little bit, ask you guys a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to choose pizza or beer, you could have one or the other for the rest of your life. Which is it going to be?
I will look to my head brewer.
I mean, you know my answer already.
Nick, you're asking the wrong guys that question. You need the culinary guys on the call.
All liquid diet over here. No, I love pizza, but it's a tough call. I'd say probably beer.
If I had to choose and give up one or the other, no, yeah, 100%. I would do beer for the rest of my life.
You could ask most of the rest of the company, and they'd probably disagree with that. But that's why we're in the jobs we're in, I suppose.
A handful of the cooks that I was trying to get on this podcast, so that I didn't have to be on this podcast, they would have said beer, and a handful of the other ones, they're all 100% sober, so they would have totally said pizza. But I think it's going to be a majority beer from the Brickyard Hollow crew.
It's tough when you make such good liquid. And it's free to us.
All right. Tune your own horn here. All right.
We're kind of known, so this is kind of a side note, but we're kind of known around here as the good cop, bad cop. I'm going to let you assume that he's the bad cop, but he's the one that has to worry about all the actual headaches and the daily operations, and I just get to play with the sugar water all day. So, so you might hear a little bit of that here and there.
I try to be more balanced.
Yeah,
well, let's just say that.
Dark.
Oh, no.
Bianca,
No,
same question for you. Which one are you going with?
Oh, Nick,
You're not a big
Well,
beer drinker. I feel like you gotta go pizza, right?
I'd probably go pizza just because I love
Yeah.
pizza. Also, I usually drink more, like, I'd say I drink more wine than beer a lot of the time. Nick's definitely our beer guy, and I absolutely love it. I love a good beer, so I hope I never have to go without either one, but probably would
You
go
have a
pizza just because
favorite
I eat
style
anyway.
of wine?
Well, I try everything. I think we've had some really good um we've had some really good regional wines. We've also had some, like, bigger wineries even on the podcast. But yeah, I usually go for like a Sauvignon Blanc or a
Yeah.
Cabernet or something a little bit more standard, I guess, available at the store. My favorite that I ever had though was a Cabernet Franc from Napa, and that was one of my favorites I've ever had.
Oh,
So
cool. Not a lot of those out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That's cool.
they're hard
Yeah.
to find.
Yeah, it's a
It's
good grape though.
But you can try anything. I think, same with a brewery too. When you try it on site somewhere too, it's just like the experience is. I
Oh, yeah.
swear everything's better.
Yeah, I think there's a word for it. It's called the vineyard experience. Or
Yeah,
something like that,
it
right?
tastes way better than it has any right to be, but
That's why they get you to
lives
buy a
with you
case and
forever.
send it home,
Yes,
right? And then you get
exactly.
home and it's like, wow, why did I buy this case?
As a former salesman at a winery, that's exactly what it is, and it's all psychology. Yeah.
I will say it was just as good when I brought that home, but there have been some where I'm like, all right, it was great. Like it was hot and I was outside and they gave me a nice
Yeah.
chilled glass, and you get home and you're like, it was definitely better there.
Right. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, need to recreate the experience in my front yard, I guess, to
There you go.
to
Yeah.
really.
That's
So,
what
yeah,
they say.
Nick,
I mean,
are
big
you-
part of it's just the sense of place that goes into that too. I'm going beer. I crave
Yeah,
beer way
yeah.
more than I crave pizza. I feel like when it comes to food, like so many other good foods, I could be
Yeah.
super happy with tacos, burgers, whatever it's gonna be.
Oh,
Right.
But
As
when
long
you
as-
want a
as
beer,
long
you
as,
just
like,
gotta have a
breadsticks-
beer.
Yeah, as long as breadsticks aren't counted.
Yeah,
in the
there's
pizza.
plenty of other
You get
cheesy
my
bready
pizza
foods.
fix.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely go on beer. If you had to, well, you already answered this one here. I was gonna just ask you if you had to pick a style of beer, but if for you, it's gonna be your clean, crisp lagers, right? Worth. That's
Yeah, my favorite particular style is Pilsner. But there's so many other types of clean lager that play pretty, similarly for me. But yeah, that, or honestly, like, and it's still something that I, as a brewer, am striving to be more competitive with. But a really good hazy New England IPA, there's something to be said about that. I don't drink much of them. I've gotten a little burnout on them now, but there's just so many people making such like high level IPAs, and they're such expensive beers to make in terms of the ingredients and the effort that goes into them. So I have a lot of respect for what a lot of the other New England brewers do up here for that. And we're striving to be in the same tier as that. But just like a good lager, it's hard to make any beer perfect. So not to say that lagers are more difficult. They can be, but there's good beer to be had in all style categories, and really the ones that this is the one style or one kind of branch that we are not able to and haven't started making here yet, but a lot of mixed fermentation and sours, things like what Allagash and Oxbow are doing. That's not something that we have the capacity to do right now. I have a lot of respect for people that put that much love and energy into maybe possibly a 3-year long project just to make one beer. That's a different level.
Well,
we look up highly to those people that do that.
We'll get there. I mean, we kind of talked about it, like earlier. I had mentioned that we took a little brewery tour down at Allagash. It was phenomenal and it was great, but it was very much so aspirational. If we can get to that level in 10, 15, 20 years, awesome. That's not where I'm at the moment. But Nick, going back to your question,
what do you think?
I'll expand a little bit. I mean, lagers, that's a wide range, honestly. I'm gonna narrow it down a little bit. Anything Bach. I can get like a Maibach, I get a double Bach, anything like that. That is my favorite beer style. And I mean, I think you guys tried our Doppelbock, and the only reason that we had brewed that was because I looked at Worth and was like, hey, we've got, we've got an opening in the schedule. Can you please brew me a doppelbock? Because that's my favorite style. Can you just
I was literally
Do
like,
one
oh,
for the
I have
bad
a-
cop.
I have a recipe already.
yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, brew those like that. We'll do it. But they're expensive, just like the IPAs. The higher alcohol content, it's gonna
Whatever.
cost more.
Whatever.
That's definitely not a profitable beer.
Well, I will
The
say
numbers guy
my
can make
wife,
it work.
yeah, my wife Alex, who's not a beer drinker, that was the favorite one that she tried, the Doppelbock of
really?
all of them.
Excellent.
She really enjoyed that one. She definitely
Wow.
tends to lead to more of those, I guess, kind of breadier, maltier type of beers and away from the
Yep.
hoppier ones. So that was the one that stood out to her the most, that she said she could probably drink, but maybe not a full can of.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
baby
a serious
steps.
beer.
Well, she has exceptional taste.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right, she's my kind of people. That's great.
Absolutely. And my brother-in-law, Paul, who also came with us, where he compared one of your beers, he said it tastes just like Treehouse. So that's pretty high praise too.
Oh,
Yeah,
I wonder.
I don't remember
One of the IPAs.
which one it was. Yeah, was it a double IPA that we tried? Brandon, do you remember what you served up?
I think it was the
Send it. I think it was Send It. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we can only hope to be on their level, but that means a lot to hear. That's awesome.
You guys have the disc golf course. They have the golf course down in Tewksbury now. You're basically the same. I mean,
Mini
right there.
treehouse over here.
Exactly.
They-
We're basically the same.
They
Yeah, a
have
lot more
pizza inside.
creations
You
than
got
we have.
pizza inside. I don't know if you've been there, but hey,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys are right there. I think you guys are hand in hand.
Hell yeah.
Do you enter your
Yeah.
beers into any of the beer competitions, or are you not really into that?
No, we've considered it. It's definitely not something that I, as a brewer, hold a lot of weight into. A lot of those things are kind of pay to enter, and there are great judges that do a good job rating them and stuff. And it is a good little feather in the cap. But we honestly, kind of speaking to what we were talking about before, we've been here maybe just over a year producing consistently now. And we haven't really had our recipes dialed in until probably in the last 4 months, to where I would want to enter them. And there's a couple beers we were talking about entering, one being our Pilsner.
So we have been encouraged by the higher ups, the CEO, and a couple other people in the ownership group to submit to those things. My easy answer to that is like, well, like it costs money to ship stuff out there, but at the same time,
yeah.
and to enter, but at the same time, it's like I want us to be at the absolute peak, the absolute best that we can be before we start sending stuff out there. Do I think we can compete right now? Honestly, I think we could. Like looking through the list of medal winners, I've had a lot of those beers, and I think we're in the same ballpark. Depends on the judge, depends on the day, but I don't think we would do too poorly if we sent it right now. But
yeah, the other element to that for me is, and this is kind of a recurring thing with us on the production side here, is that we're at a unique place compared to other breweries because we have a lot of friends in the industry around here. A lot of people are struggling and downsizing and kind of slimming their models down. We have a bit of the opposite problem because of all the expansion that they've done recently. So something like a medal, that would be great for marketing, but we are selling too much beer currently. Not to brag, but it's kind of like until we can keep up with demand, we're not looking for a driving marketing element like that.
And that's exactly that's kind of the practical standpoint. That is, we try and take like day in and day out. It would be an awesome marketing win if we got even a bronze or silver, or God forbid a gold at some competition somewhere. But we're mostly focused on just brewing the best beer that we can and making sure that beer gets to where it needs to go, and that is a Brickyard location, and then a handful of our distributor partners who have us on draft or keep us on the shelves.
Yeah, my worry would be people will be looking for the beer once they see that, and then we won't have enough for them.
And you see that all over some of the big breweries, especially up here in New England. You got like Phil's Farmstead, you got Alchemist, you got Treehouse back when they were out in where the Charlton, Mass out there, and you got lines out the door, everyone's scrambling to get this. But when you guys are really trying to brew these beers, as you say, for the masses, go in there, have your pizza, have your beer, that's a different vibe than everyone lining up at
Yeah.
6 a.m. to buy 3 cases to stick in their car and
Yeah, and
drive
that's
away.
just that's really not our clientele. Like the
Yeah.
people that would care about that kind of thing aren't the people that we're seeing every day in our restaurants. You know, the mom and dad with 2-year-olds aren't looking up the medal winners. You know, they're there for a good time. Would we like to do that? Sure, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not a priority.
No, I mean,
yeah.
absolutely would be cool. And if our clientele starts shifting that direction, that would be awesome. I mean, we can shift priorities, but that's not the clientele, you know, historically for Brickyard Hollow. So that's not really our focus.
It'd just be a bonus. Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of fine with it. We're fine with that. Yeah.
Hey, when you guys have the praise of just, you know, selling too much beer to be able to put back on the shelves, there's not really much to complain about. You know, you're doing something right.
Oh, I complain about it every day, Nick. Someone's got to make that beer.
Perfect. Well, we can also we can get this wrapped up here for tonight too. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come on and talk to us. Everyone get out there, get yourself some pizza here this October, every month going on here. Make sure you're supporting the local cause. I know Full Plates of Potential, big one that you mentioned for this next upcoming month that we're supporting, and everything else that you guys have going on. But you guys are making great pizza, making great beer. We really appreciate you again taking the time to host us on Saturday and also just come on and chat with us tonight. But outside of that, anything, Brandon, that you want to, you know, leave us with before we wrap?
Worth, anything you want to leave them with before we wrap?
Well, to anyone listening, we're just hoping to make the beer better and better. So don't expect it to go down from here. Other than that, excited for some dark beers in the winter. Get those going. It's hard to sell those in the summer, but we've got a couple more of those out. And yeah, I don't know. Nothing in particular that I can think of other than that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got our 10 locations up here in the state of Maine, and we are looking to expand down into Florida. Whether or not that happens, a little touch and go. There's been a lot of stuff going on down there. You know, the hurricanes and all that stuff. So hopefully, you know, progress is progressing down there. But otherwise, we're up here in Maine, and I think that's kind of where we're going to stay for the most part. Up here in Maine, we're not looking too far outside of the state. So, if you want some Brickyard Hollow, come up to Maine. We'll help you guys out. You know,
you might have mentioned this already, but we are doubling our production capacity in the next year. So that's a big thing for us right now.
That's right.
All of these questions about keeping up with the beer should hopefully be solved in the next 6 months.
There is an ongoing production or an ongoing discussion, and we're looking to double, if not almost triple our production with the expansion of a couple of new tanks here in call it December, January, maybe of this year. So hopefully we are
more work for us,
rocking and rolling, and more work for this guy.
Yeah.
And you know, we should be in good stead this time next year. So
We like to have positive problems.
that's
Yeah.
Well, just a small little detail. Huh? Everything that we're doing right now, just double it. Let's go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
and that's
Here we go.
that's something we had talked about earlier. I mean, Brickyard has like good problems to have in spades. So we're doing something right. We gotta keep expanding to keep meeting that demand. So yeah, that's just more of the same for us as far as we're concerned. So we're just just gotta keep trucking.
Yeah, staying hopeful that the industry as a whole doesn't take a lot of hits in the next 2 years. It's been looking a little tough right now across the board. So so everyone's gonna pivot a little bit, and we're hoping to stay strong through that.
Well, there's
Yeah,
a
well, best
little
of
bit
luck.
of
Yeah.
hurt, but
Well,
You guys know you at least have the, you know, the whole
reality
restaurant
of-
background to fall back on. That's something huge. Just people, you know, as long as they can still get your pizza, you know, you guys have a perfect food for even a takeout model. You know, able to pivot when things happen like a few years ago with COVID, and a lot of places couldn't really stay open inside. I'm sure you guys had plenty of takeout pizza going out of Freeport, not of, you know,
that was a game changer for sure.
exactly. So keep it up. We're looking forward to see what you guys keep doing here and continuing to eat your pizza, drink your beer. And hopefully you come closer to Southern Maine too. I'm up in Amesbury, Mass now, so Kittery's right across the border. So if you guys make it down there, I'll be there all the time. But yeah, we'll look
I've
forward
heard
to it.
rumors of New Hampshire at some point, but that could be years. So don't quote me on that. Don't tell the COO I said that. But
By then, I'm going to be back in Portland anyway. We'll be coming back to you guys. So
there we go.
excellent.
Cool.
Well, again, thanks so much for taking the time. Everybody, get to Brickyard Hollow as soon as possible. Go try their pizza,
Yeah.
drink their beer, and we'll look forward to talking to you guys again in the future.
Yeah, thanks. You guys are awesome.
Yeah,
Cheers.
sounds good. We'll
Awesome.
talk in a couple of years here. Yeah.
Sure to follow us on social at Uncorked Corner and on the blog at uncorkedcorner.com for a taste of more food and beverage content.
And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Thanks for listening.